There is nothing quite like the excitement of carrying a heavy, perfect-looking watermelon home on a hot summer day. You can already taste the sweet, crisp juice. But then you slice it open, and your heart sinks. It is pale, watery, and completely tasteless. You just wasted your hard-earned money, and you are left with nothing but regret. Most people think buying a sweet watermelon is pure luck. It isn't. There are actually 5 visible signs that can predict quality before you buy. Grocery stores won't teach you these secrets because they benefit when every single melon sells, even the bad ones. Growing up around people who valued traditional, practical knowledge taught me that nature always leaves clues. These simple methods were once common sense among experienced growers and market shoppers who knew exactly what to look for. They did not guess, they knew. In this chapter, you will learn the 5 hidden signs that reveal a perfect watermelon every time. We will look at things like the color of the field spot and the texture of the skin. By the end, you will have a repeatable checklist that ensures you never take home a bland melon again. The very first thing you need to look for is the field spot, which is the pale patch on the watermelon where it rested on the ground while growing. Think of this mark as the melon's internal clock. It tells you exactly how long the fruit actually matured under the sun. A lot of people see this spot and think the watermelon is bruised or damaged, so they look for a perfectly green one instead. That is a huge mistake. A flawless green melon means it was picked too early. When a watermelon sits on the vine, it absorbs nutrients and builds up sugars. This takes time, and that time leaves a deep, creamy yellow color on the bottom. If the spot is a pale, milky white, the melon was rushed off the vine. It will taste like crunchy water because the sugars never had a chance to develop. Once a watermelon is cut away from the roots, it stops ripening completely. It will never get any sweeter on your kitchen counter. So, here's your quick rule to remember. Look for a rich, buttery yellow or even an orange-yellow patch. That deep color is your data-driven proof that the melon spent enough time connected to its life source. If the spot looks like a ghost, pale and white, put it right back down. A dark, creamy field spot is the easiest way to guarantee the fruit inside is sweet, ripe, and ready to enjoy. Once you check the field spot, your next step is to step back and analyze the watermelon's overall shape. A melon's shape tells the true story of its development out in the field. When a watermelon grows under ideal conditions with steady watering and plenty of healthy sunshine, it expands evenly. This creates a perfectly symmetrical fruit, whether it is a round variety or an oval one. Symmetrical growth is a major clue because even development usually produces a much more consistent flesh inside. It means the sugar and water are spread evenly throughout the entire fruit, so every single bite tastes just as good as the last. An irregular shape like a melon with weird lumps, flat sides, or one end that is way thicker than the other is a warning sign. These deformities usually happen when the plant suffered from uneven watering or lacked proper pollination from bees during its growth cycle. When a plant gets stressed like that, the fruit inside becomes uneven too. Part of it might be dry and hollow, while another part might be spongy and flavorless. This brings us to a very common shopping mistake. People almost always choose the biggest melon in the bin instead of the best-grown one. They think that more size automatically means a better value for their money. But a giant, misshapen watermelon is a gamble that you will usually lose. Think of it as a simple visual comparison. Imagine a well-built brick house versus one with crooked walls. You want to choose the smooth, uniform watermelon that looks balanced from every angle. If you see a melon that looks warped or lopsided, do not let its massive size fool you. Pass it up for a smaller, perfectly symmetrical one, because a balanced shape guarantees a beautifully balanced flavor inside. Now that you have checked the shape, it is time for a hands-on test that most shoppers completely ignore. You need to pick up the watermelon and feel how heavy it is. To do this correctly, find 2 melons that are roughly the same size and hold one in each hand. The difference will often surprise you. You want to choose the one that feels surprisingly heavy for its size. This is all about density. A high-quality watermelon is packed full of water and natural sugars, which makes it very dense and heavy. When a melon receives steady water and nutrients while growing on the vine, its cells fill up completely, leaving no empty space inside. That weight is your physical proof that the fruit is incredibly juicy. On the other hand, a light watermelon will almost always disappoint you when you cut it open. If a melon feels light, it usually means the vine did not get enough water, or the fruit grew too fast and became hollow inside. The flesh will often be dry, spongy, and lacking flavor. It might look fine on the outside, but inside, you are mostly buying trapped air. So, do not just trust your eyes when you shop. Let your hands do the work. Always pick the heavier option between two similar melons, because more weight means more juice and much better flavor. Almost everyone goes straight to the watermelon bin and starts tapping, but very few people actually know what they're listening for. To do this test correctly, hold the melon in one arm and give it a firm rap with your knuckles, right in the center. You're not just making noise, you're listening to how sound waves travel through the fruit. A perfectly ripe watermelon will give you a deep, hollow sound, almost like a drum. This happens because the crisp, water-filled cells create a clear echo. If you hear a dull, flat thud instead, it means the melon is underripe and tightly packed with hard, starchy flesh that absorbs the sound. On the flip side, an overly soft, metallic, or squishy sound is a warning that the melon is overripe. The cells inside have started to break down into mush, turning the fruit into a watery mess. The biggest mistake people make is tapping a melon while it's still resting on the pile. The other watermelons touch it and muffle the noise, completely ruining the test. You must lift the melon up into the air to hear the true echo. Listen for that deep, drum-like resonance and avoid the flat thuds. Finally, we look at the small surface details that most shoppers completely walk past. These final clues are incredibly valuable because they act as your tiebreakers when you're trying to choose between two great options. First, take a close look at the stem, if it is still attached to the melon. A dry, brown stem that looks like a curled pigtail means the watermelon ripened naturally on the vine and fell off or was cut at the perfect time. If the stem is green and fresh, it means the melon was harvested too early while it was still growing, so it will likely be sour. Next, check the surface texture for brown, web-like lines. These rough scars are actually a great sign. They show where bees pollinated the flower multiple times while the fruit was just starting to form. More pollination means sweeter fruit inside. You should also look for a dull skin rather than a shiny one. A shiny watermelon is usually underripe, while a dull appearance means the skin has hardened and the sugars are fully developed. However, you must use these surface signs alongside your earlier tests, not instead of them. No single clue is completely perfect on its own. Think of this process like assembling a puzzle. You cannot just look at a dry stem and ignore a white field spot or a lightweight. By combining all 5 tests together, you create an unbeatable system that removes all the guesswork from your grocery trip. Now that you know all the hidden signs, you can combine everything into an easy system that takes less than a minute at the grocery store. Think of this like a pilot checking their airplane before takeoff. You do not just check the fuel and ignore the wings. You look at everything together. When you stand in front of the watermelon bin, you just need to run through a quick 5-step checklist to guarantee a perfect choice every single time. First, check the field spot on the bottom to make sure it is a deep, creamy yellow, not a pale white. Second, look at the overall shape, choosing a balanced and symmetrical melon over something lopsided or lumpy. Third, compare the weight of 2 similar melons and pick the one that feels surprisingly heavy for its size. Fourth, lift the melon up into the air and listen to the sound when you tap it, making sure you hear a deep, drum-like echo instead of flat thud. Finally, inspect the surface details by looking for a dry stem, web-like pollination scars, and a dull skin. Using all 5 of these steps together is much more reliable than relying on only one clue. A watermelon might pass the sound test, but still have a white field spot, which means it was picked too early. By looking at the whole picture, you eliminate the risk of wasting your money. This simple, data-driven system turns a game of pure luck into a reliable science, giving you the confidence to pick a sweet, juicy melon every single time. It is worth asking why so many people walk into the grocery store completely blind to these signs. The truth is, skills that were once passed down through families are simply less commonly shared today. In the past, people lived closer to the land, and knowing how to select ripe food was a necessary life skill. Today, modern shoppers have learned to rely almost entirely on superficial appearance or pure chance. We live in a fast-paced world where practical observation has been slowly replaced by convenience. We trust a bright sticker or a clean grocery display more than our own senses, assuming that if a fruit looks pretty under the store lights, it must be perfect inside. But nature does not care about fancy store displays, and relying on luck only leads to wasted money. The good news is that this traditional knowledge is not lost forever, nor is it difficult to reclaim. These 5 methods are incredibly simple, completely inexpensive, and very easy to test for yourself on your very next shopping trip. You do not need a degree in agriculture or special equipment to become an expert. All it takes is a willingness to slow down for 60 seconds and look at the data the fruit is already giving you. By stepping away from the habit of convenient guessing and stepping into the role of a mindful observer, you connect back to a reliable way of eating. You're not just buying a fruit anymore. You're using your own hands and eyes to guarantee quality for your family. Now, the real test begins, and I want to challenge you to try this 5-step checklist on your very next shopping trip. Do not just take my word for it. Go out to the store, stand in front of that big bin of watermelons, and put this data to work. Lift them up, check the colors, and listen to the sounds. It only takes a minute, and you will immediately see a difference in the quality of the fruit you bring home. I would love to hear about your experience, so leave a comment and let me know which of the 5 signs surprised you the most. Was it the hidden meaning behind the dull skin, or perhaps the drum-like echo of the sound test? I also know that many of you might have your own piece of traditional wisdom that was handed down to you. If you learned any unique family tips about picking good fruit while growing up, please invite others into that knowledge by sharing it below. We are all here to learn from each other and keep these practical skills alive. Make sure to stay tuned, because our journey into traditional knowledge does not stop at the watermelon patch. Next time, I will show you how to tell whether corn was picked at the perfect moment, using signs most people walk right past. Until then, stop guessing, start observing, and enjoy the perfect food you choose with confidence.